Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Kmet and my co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hi, Jason. How's it going?
Good. I'm on location again, this time from southeastern BC.
Yeah, it seems to be happening more and more this summer, but I guess that's what happens in the summertime.
Yeah, it's good to get away every now and then, but yeah, we're just kind of hanging out here, doing a little bit of camping, and yeah, I was able to get some internet access together, and we might as well get this going. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I appreciate that. I myself am heading out tomorrow morning, going north up towards somewhere in central Alberta called Glenifer Lake. So very excited to have a little bit of a mini vacation, but yeah, excited to talk soccer before then.
And if you are a new listener to our podcast, Scott, what is the YYC Soccer Podcast all about?
So we talk about Calgary soccer at all levels, including amateur, collegiate, and professional. We talk a lot about the city's two professional soccer teams, those being Cavalry FC and the Calgary Wild. But we also talk about amateur, semi-professional, and post-secondary soccer, all with a Calgary-specific lens.
Yeah, and this week our topics are going to include reviewing Tuesday's match between Cavalry and Valour. We'll preview Calgary Wild's match. They're playing AFC Toronto on Saturday at McMahon. Talk about League One Alberta. We're basically getting to the end of the road here, the end of the season, and we'll talk about that. And we do have an interview this week, Scott. Who's our interview with?
So earlier today, I interviewed Dominick Zator, who most of our listeners are probably quite familiar with. We had him on the podcast way back when we first started it in the, I think, spring or early summer of 2023, where I just caught up with him and talked about his career over in Poland. He recently signed with a new club in Poland's top division, which is called the Ekstraklasa. He recently became a father for the first time, which is something that I could relate to. So we even chatted about that and how he's managed to balance the roles and responsibilities of parenthood with playing professional soccer overseas.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We had a chance to chat with him just after he went over to Poland. I think it was in like episode 6 or something like that. And it'd be good to get an update on how everything's going there.
Yeah, 100 and something episodes later, it was neat to chat with them. So we'll run that interview later on in the episode, but let's kick things off with our recap of Cavalry's 2-1 defeat to Valour on Tuesday.
This is Marco Carducci, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
Jason, Cavalry's 2-1 loss to Valour in Winnipeg on Tuesday night. Really, really poor results. Can't imagine that anyone was happy with that performance and result. 2 goals off of corner kicks for Valour. Cavalry's goal, which Diego Gutierrez scored against his former club, was a decent effort, but overall, I mean, there's probably a lot of pissed off players and staff in the dressing room afterward.
Oh, totally. And, this is 2 games in a row against losses against teams that typically they expect to beat. Maybe, that's, being a little bit presumptuous because, but if you look over the course of the past 7 years, these are 2 teams which usually Cavalry has their number. But yeah, a disappointing result, and I'm sure that the fact it was on set pieces, both those goals probably made the coaches even less happy because those are the ones that I think you'd like to think you could prep up for it.
Absolutely, yeah, and I do think I think Marco Carducci is one of the best shot stoppers in the CPL, but one of his weaknesses does seem to be defending corner kicks. We've seen, Forge in particular take advantage of that opportunity when they just crowd the 6-yard box. And it looks like other teams have caught on because Valour did that on both of these corner kicks. They just flooded the 6-yard box with numbers. And Marco is fairly tall, but for a goalkeeper, he's not that tall, right? I think he's 6 foot. So he's just not able to bully the other team's strikers the way that maybe a taller goalkeeper can. And yeah, on both of these, you don't have, I'm not going to put all the blame on Marco because obviously the defenders have to try to get their head on the ball first. But in both cases, Valour did well to connect on the cross, and the crosses were really well delivered. But yeah, you just have to be really, really upset with those goals if you're from Cavalry.
Both corners, like the kicks themselves, like into the box, were both really well done. But that still doesn't necessarily mean that you can't defend against them. And so yeah, it's that pretty disappointing there. And then I don't know, like I'm not sure if you watched the game in its entirety. I watched parts of it, but it kind of was a bit reminiscent. They had some chances, they had some opportunities, but they couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. Well, they did one time, but they just couldn't seem to put it together. And the first half, I thought Valour probably was the better team. Like, they deserved to be ahead 1-0.
Oh, totally. Yeah, they were. I wouldn't say they were dominating, but they were definitely the team that came out strong. And last episode we talked about how when Cavalry concedes first, they can't seem to claw their way back into it. And it seems like Valour knew that with the way that they approached the first half, and yeah, took that early deserved lead. And not only did they do what other teams have done against Cavalry this year, which is go up 1-0 and then sit back and absorb Cavalry's attack, Valour managed to double it not that long afterward. And yeah, how do you claw your way back into a game that you're 2-0 down? They tried and they did pull one back through Gutierrez, but yeah, they just didn't do enough. And you really have to scratch your head as to why, because yeah, this is now 2 poor results against teams at the very bottom of the CPL table.
Yeah, and this game ended in similar fashion compared to the York match. A bunch of fisticuffs, hockey game like shenanigans there, and saw Gauthier Natigny get a red card, and obviously the frustration's blowing over. But they're going to be down a couple players probably for the next match.
Yeah. I mean, Gauthier Natigny just re-signed with the club, and what was this, his 3rd appearance or something like that? And he's going to be suspended for 3 games. And yeah, Ali Musi still has 2 games to sit out, so that's 2 wingers who bring a lot of pace to Cavalry's attack, who they can't draw upon. So really, the club is definitely not in a great place right now. I mean, I'm trying not to be too knee-jerk with my analysis of Cavalry, because they have played a few strong games despite this slump that they've been in for the last month. But I think some things do need to change, like in terms of either the starting 11 or maybe the formation. Like, it seems like they often employ this 4-2-3-1, which I'm a big fan of, the 4-2-3-1 formation, but it hasn't been working, and they're still starting games in that formation. So I think strategically something should be altered, and I think they really have to look at who's starting and what have they brought to the table in recent matches, and should they still be starting.
Yeah, well, they made a couple changes in this match. Callan Montgomery sat on the bench, and they did move a few things around. But yeah, I think like something's got to change, got to happen here. Like, I'm also kind of not knee-jerk panic reaction, because the way I look at it is this coaching staff, the body of work over the past how many ever years, 6 to 7 years, it leads me to think that you probably should have. The overall body of work shows that lots of times it all comes back together again. But yeah, I think there needs to be some kind of rethink of some sort. I don't know. Yeah, change of formation, change personnel. Something's got to be flipped up.
Yeah, they just haven't had a bounce back game, right? We all thought when they beat Valour with that 93rd minute goal just over a week ago, that ended the slump. But they've had 2 rough results since then. Yeah, it's dark clouds right now over Cavalry FC, but this is a team that not that long ago went on a 10-game unbeaten streak. So clearly the quality is there, and it's just a matter of getting over the hump and finding that form again.
Yeah, that 10-game unbeaten streak seems like a million years ago now, doesn't it?
It definitely does, that's for sure.
Hi, this is Grace Doherty, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
Okay, Scott, Let's talk about the Calgary Wild. They're back in action on Saturday afternoon at McMahon Stadium. They're going to play Kaylee Hunter and AFC Toronto.
Yeah, second time that AFC Toronto will play in Calgary. They definitely had the better of the Wild last time these two teams faced off at McMahon. Hopefully the Wild will be able to get back to business because they are coming off of two rough losses and they haven't scored in a couple of games. They didn't score in their last two games, so it's not going to be easy, right? They're taking on the league leading team at the moment. It is noteworthy that Toronto lost their last two games, which ended I believe, 5-game win streak that they had been on. So they're either going to be a wounded animal that is going to come out really hot and hungry, or maybe they're at the start of a slump, and the Wild can take advantage of that.
Yeah, and the couple new players the Wild have signed, they're going to have spent a week training with the club. So yeah, we'll get a better chance to see how they fit in. But yeah, it's definitely an opportunity for the Wild to sort of climb back into things here if they can get a good result.
For sure. They are down in 5th place in a 6-team league at the moment. And the fact that Vancouver, who have mostly been in 4th this season, just ahead of the Wild, the fact that they beat the league leaders is not great news for Calgary's standings climbing hopes. But it probably gives them some confidence when they watch the game film and see, okay, these are Toronto's weaknesses that we can try to exploit.
Totally.
Hi, this is Aislinn Phillips, and this is the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, Scott, League One Alberta is pretty much at the end of the road here. Final matches are going to be happening in the next several days. So let's get ourselves up to speed about where things are at. There was a match on Tuesday that had big implications towards the women's division, and it was Foothills against Rangers at Macron, and Foothills needed to win this match in order to still stay in title contention, and they did that rather handily, I'd say.
Absolutely. They shut out Rangers 8-0 with goals coming from a lot of familiar names. Rachel Barlow, Grace Hannaford, Kendall Showers got a brace. Emma Schneider scored. Recent podcast guest Avril Jamieson scored 2 to add to her league leading total. Abby Steen got a goal. So yeah, really easy outing for Foothills. And obviously Rangers have struggled in that division, but a big performance in a must-win game from Foothills.
Yeah, so it all comes down to Friday night at Broadview. It's going to be Blizzard against Villains, and if Blizzard wins, they get the title on the women's side. If Blizzard draws, then they tie Foothills with 32 points, and I don't know what the tiebreaker rules are. And if Blizzard loses, Foothills gets the title. So I'm imagining a lot of Foothills players may end up being at Broadview watching that match. And yeah, anyway, it's all come down to this.
For sure. And in the men's division, of course, because League One operates on a doubleheader system, Villains and Blizzard will also be playing at Broadview on Friday evening. And that game will have title ramifications as well. If Blizzard wins that match, which they're definitely expected to do, as Villains has really struggled in the League One men's division, that would give Blizzard the title if St. Albert loses to Callies. And they're playing Callies up in St. Albert as the home team. So that game will really have some say in who gets their hand on the trophy.
Yeah, and if any other combination of results will leave it all up to the final match of the season, and that'll be on Sunday between St. Albert and Blizzard at the Calgary Soccer Center Dome. So 2 p.m., that would decide it. That the top two teams would go at it, and we'd have a winner.
So that is, I think, where everybody will be paying attention this Friday night. But there are some other games that don't necessarily have important ramifications in terms of how they finish, but we can at least mention them. Cavalry U21 will be facing Edmonton Scottish. Interestingly, Jason, I see you put down here that this game is happening in Red Deer, which I think would be a first for League One Alberta.
Yeah, I looked up the name of the field, and apparently it's a field in Red Deer. So news to me. I haven't read anything official on that, like from the standpoint of from the league, but just on the league website, that's where it lists the locations. So yeah, kind of different.
Hey everyone, it's Dominick Zator, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
Let's finish our episode with our interview with Dominick Zator. His club in Poland, Arka Gdynia, has already kicked off their 25-26 Ekstraklasa season, and they have a really big match coming up this weekend, which he talks about in the interview. So let's run that now and hear from him. I'd like to welcome Dominick Zator back to the podcast. Longtime listeners may recall that we had Dominick on in the early days of our podcast back in 2023. It's been a very busy couple of years for him since then, so it's been great to catch up. For those who aren't aware, Dominick is playing professionally over in Poland. Recently joined a new team that is called Arka Gdynia. Did I pronounce that correctly? Okay, great. Well, excited to catch up with you and talk about that. And before he went overseas, Dominick played in the CPL with Cavalry as well as York United. He also captained the University of Calgary Dinos and was also captain for that Foothills team that won the PDL championship in 2018. Dominick, thanks for coming back on the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Scott. Yeah, thanks for inviting me back on. Nice to chat with you. Old base that we used to play against each other, so it's nice to bring this back.
Definitely. So I guess the first question is just an obvious and easy, like, how has it been going? Obviously, we talked 2 years ago, shortly after you had moved over and were playing for Corona Kilchie. Couple seasons there. Now you've changed clubs. You played for Canada since we last spoke. So, I mean, how's it been going from your own perspective?
Yeah, like you said, there's a lot's been going on. It's been quite the journey the last 2 years. Obviously, making my first step coming over to Poland and playing with Calgary Wild, I could have been on doing like a better, start to my journey in Europe where things were going well. We were like the club I was with Corona, we were in deep relegation, but I was able to play basically every minute and help us, avoid relegation. And during that time, had some good performances, which kind of got the attention of the national team, which also was, just an honor to be able to be in the mix and get called up. And when you're at those national team camps amongst faces like Davies, David, like Blair and Estacchio, there's, now the national team is top quality. So to be amongst those names and being invited was a huge honor. So that kind of helped me stay focused and over the last 2 years, just trying to play as much as I can and just doing everything I can to continue playing football at like a high level. And obviously the World Cup coming around the corner in Canada would be, that's kind of the goal. So trying to do everything I can to get some more playing time and, fight for first spot on that roster coming 2026.
I think the end of your answer there kind of alluded to my next question, which is like, what precipitated the move from Corona Kilchie over to Arka Gdynia, which I believe recently promoted, right, to the first division?
It's coming. Contract was coming to an end, and then I've been having some conversations with some clubs. But the coach of this new club, he was the assistant coach of Rakub of another club in this in Ekstraklasa, and they won a league. And he's a younger coach. His name is David Schwargat. He's a very, I feel like, knowledgeable coach for his age, but he's very experienced, what it takes to win in this league. And I had many conversations with them, and it kind of drew me towards playing under him. And I can see his intentions, his ambitions, and things like that, which I think kind of suit my style and my mythology with football. So I thought it was a pretty good fit. Obviously, it's always difficult trying to join a new team that had success. You just get promoted, you win a second league. So it's now about how can I find my way into this squad and, build a good relationship with the coach and the new team and hopefully have a good season in Ekstraklasa.
And that season has gotten going. I noticed like Ekstraklasa starts pretty early, whereas I know a lot of other European leagues don't really get started until August. You guys have already played a couple of games.
Yeah, exactly. We played 2 matches already. Fortunately, we lost the first and tied the second. So this week we have a big game against Legia Warsaw away. So I mean that's kind of the top dogs in the league. Everybody kind of knows of that. If you think about Poland, Legia Warsaw, so it's a big game coming up. But yeah, we start early, which is nice because you can just kind of get right into it. But it's because we have that winter break, which most European countries don't really have that basically 2 month gap in there. So we start up a little earlier, which, yeah, for me, I think it's nice because you can just get onto it right away and play matches before other people and you kind of get eyes on you.
I did want to ask about last season with Corona because, like you mentioned in your previous answer, like you were playing a lot in your first year or two with that team. So I noticed last year, I think it was 10 matches. Was there an injury struggle or was there something else?
No, there's at the start of the year, I was battling with a bit of an injury, kind of a lot. It's called like osteitis pubis, like along the lines of like a sports hernia. But yeah, it took longer to deal with than I expected. So put me out for a fair amount of games. And then, yeah, and then after that, kind of you realize football, the different sides of it. When you're coming close to the end of a contract, there's teams doing well. It's time to play some younger players. That was the true grind, trying to figure out, football. It really humbles you quick. You gotta keep battling every day, trying to put in a spot on the pitch, and things were kind of closing that way. I could see. So it was about what's the new door I have to kind of go through, and continue finding my path and achieving the dreams I have for the next year.
I want to ask you about your playing style and how it's kind of evolved since you've gone overseas to Poland. Still, I remember you predominantly as a center back, but of course you've been playing a lot of right back throughout your career, especially in the recent years. So how has that kind of shift been going? Because yeah, you're obviously like you talked last interview, we talked to you about how much you get on the ball at right back, how you get to bomb up the pitch a little more, be more involved with the attack. But like as a player, how have you kind of changed over the years?
It is more enjoyable when you're able to bomb up the flanks and you can go on a little adventure and try to help the team score goals, not just defend during the match. But yeah, I think with my fitness levels, I think coaches see that, and I would say like my pace, it kind of helps me run up and down that flank for 90 minutes. But as well as being that kind of utility player where they know if something happens, that I can still slot inside as a center back. So I think just understanding my role, being kind of that utility player, like if teams need me, I could just plug in different positions and I kind of know the role. And yeah, I think they've seen because of my pace and ability on the ball that playing a right back position kind of gives me more of that freedom to kind of express myself.
Shifting focus a little bit, I want to ask about something in your personal life. I obviously follow you on social media, so I saw that your daughter was born in January. Congratulations. What's that been like, and how have you balanced the roles and responsibilities of fatherhood with, moving to a new city and starting out with a new club?
Every day is a different challenge. It's a whirlwind of emotions. When my daughter was born in January, it's an amazing experience. I mean, for every parent out there who had like gone through this, like the birth of a child, it's spectacular, and then after that, holding a child, it's hard to describe, but it's something special, and yeah, it's also it's not easy. That's the biggest thing. It's I had to continue trying to play. I had to go back to Poland where my wife had her baby girl in Canada. So then, you don't see them for a little while, and then they grow up so quickly. And then now after the summer holidays, I was at home with the family, but then I had to come back over for preseason. If you miss a couple weeks, they change a lot, but it's something now, every day you come home from training and you have that, little baby in front of you and they smile at you, it melts your heart. So even if you're having a tough day at work, it doesn't matter. You come home, everything kind of, it doesn't matter. Just your child. That's the most important at that moment. So it has really, made me a bit softer, I guess.
I wanted to ask if you've still been following along with the CPL. I was curious if you've managed to catch any games. You probably know, obviously, that Cavalry won last year. What have you kind of thought of the evolution of the league in the last probably 3 years since you played in it with York?
Yeah, no, I've definitely been keeping tabs on it, and I still have a fair amount of buddies playing in the league, so it's nice to catch up with them once in a while. And yeah, honestly, it was great to see that Cavalry they won. I mean, it's something that I think they deserved in that season. I thought they played really well. It's a long time coming, so I think that was great for them. But I do think the league has grown quite a bit. The levels get better each and every year, and I just think that's the right thing. The pathway is going in the right direction. I just think it's able to start adding more clubs, more teams into the league just to help grow it a little bit more. So every team isn't just playing each other 4 times, but obviously it's a new league. It takes time to grow things like that, but hopefully it just keeps continuing in this trend because I do see that there are a lot of good quality players in that league getting their opportunities. And you know what, like there's players who are in that league now who could become the next, Alfonso Davies.
We always like to let our guests kind of say whatever they want at the end, like if there's any shout outs you want to make, that kind of thing. So floor is yours.
But yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, congrats, I guess, to the Cavs for winning the league. And my guy, Arka Gdynia, now has got 50 clean sheets. So, I mean, that's a pretty impressive statistic. So that's not much more I can say. You got the rolling wall for Cavalry doing his thing and the league growing well. So, I mean, just continue going step by step.
Right on. Well, thank you so much, Dominick, for coming on the podcast again. We've been following along since you went over to Poland, and we'll continue to do so. Best of luck this season with the new club, and once again, congratulations on becoming a father, and best of luck with that role as well.
Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can have this podcast downloaded to your device as soon as it becomes available by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or other platforms. Check out our website at yycsoccer.com, where you can look through our episode archive and find other options to listen, including our YouTube channel. We also have links there to buy a copy of Scott's book. It's called Here Come the Cavalry, and it's all about Calgary's pro soccer history. You can leave a question or comment in the Contact Us section of our website. You can also interact with us on social media such as Twitter, Instagram, or Blue Sky, where our username is YYC Soccer 403. Thanks for listening.